Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Watches Etc. Rolex tends to divide opinions within the watch community, between those who love the brand, sometimes to the extent of delusion, believing that Rolex watches are the best made, to those who have an at times irrational hatred of the brand, stating that they are rudimentary tool watches. As ever with these arguments, both sides are not quite correct, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. I then see asked something which is a bit of a challenge, and that is what watches are better than Rolex that cost less. So in this video I'm showing you Watches Etc.'s top 5 watches that are not only less expensive than their Rolex counterparts, but are also more technically advanced and of course readily available without the hassle of waiting lists or inflated secondary market prices. So here we're looking at truly amazing pieces from established brands that are equally as good or better than their Rolex counterparts. Our first pick is a watch that we think is equally as iconic as its Rolex counterpart. You could even say that this watch was partly responsible for the success of Rolex. The watch I'm talking about, of course, is the Zenith El Primero. Many of you will be aware that the Zenith El Primero actually passed on its movement to the Rolex Daytona, which was using the same chronograph movement up until the year 2000. Aside from the movement, there are other aspects of the El Primero which we think outshine the Daytona too. The El Primero is immediately recognizable with its distinctive 3-colored subdials and the contrasting bright red chronograph hand with the eye-catching star. It's not only beautiful, but the finishing is also to a higher level than Rolex, with the perfectly applied and very sharp-looking markers, crisp-looking lettering and a stunning sunburst finishing on the dial. But of course, it is the movement that steals the show, with the in-house column wheel chronograph which is 5 Hz in frequency compared to the 4 of the Rolex. This allows you to measure time up to 1/10 of a second. Another advantage is the date complication on the Zenith, which is lacking on the Daytona. There is another feature on the El Primero that Rolex is also missing out on, and that's the sapphire caseback. And on the Zenith we can see the amazing movement with the skeletonized rotor and star engraving. All in all, we love the El Primero and feel that it leaves the Daytona in its tracks in many aspects. You can pick these up on the grey market for under $6,000, which of course is significantly less than what you'll pay for a Daytona if you can find one. The second watch to make it to our list is a legendary style icon of significant horological history, the Amiga Seamaster. With a rich history that started in 1957, the Seamaster is almost as old as the Rolex Submariner itself. In terms of performance, the Seamaster 300 matches or outperforms the Sub in pretty much all aspects. But where it truly shines is the movement. The Seamaster is definitely ahead of the Sub when it comes to what's under the hood, and Amiga has built in its coaxial caliber a movement that is not only chronometer certified, but one that has been reviewed under stricter guidelines than the Rolex, as the Seamaster runs with an accuracy of +0 to +4 seconds per day. It's an amazing, functional watch that outperforms the Rolex equivalent, and all of this for a price for as low as $4,000. Number 3 on the list we think is one of the biggest wins here, smashing its Rolex counterpart into the ground, and that is any watch from the JLC Master Collection. JLC is not known as the watchmaker's watchmaker for nothing, having been at the forefront of the industry and innovation since 1833. Despite the significant history, JLC has continuously renewed its creativity and inventiveness and has been responsible for the creation of more than 1,200 calibers, earning its respect and a unique position within the watchmaking industry. Whilst it is the Reverso that takes much of the limelight for JLC, at Watches Etc., we think it's the Master Collection line that steals the show, with it pulverizing its Rolex counterpart into oblivion. Whilst the other watches in the Master Collection are beautiful, the Master Control date is almost perfection, being everything that we look for in a dress watch. The minimalist dial tells the time using 2 Dauphine hands. The date window is located at 3 o'clock, and it's as simple as that. The level of finishing on show here is genuinely next level, up there with Grand Seiko, and there is no risk that you will get bored with how the light reflects off the surfaces and angles. It would be remiss of us not to mention how well proportioned the 39mm steel case is, which is slim, measuring in at just 8.5mm. This classic case with its broad polished bezel houses JLC's own movement, which comes with a decorated pink gold rotor. The dial itself is sparse but stylish, with printed Arabics and a date. There are nice details on the outer minute track, and the hands are beautiful, long and slender with loads of personality. With a retail price of £6,000, this is one heck of a package, and you are getting a lot of watch that is finished to a level not usually seen at this price range. And who isn't looking for a little more value these days? The fourth watch that we think is better than its Rolex equivalent is what we think is one of the best value dive watches for serious divers around, and that is the Tudor Pelagos. The titanium case, which is the first watch to come from the Rolex family fashioned from titanium, measures in at 42mm, which is modern whilst incorporating subtle hints of yesteryear such as the chamfered lugs. It goes without saying that no dive watch would be complete without the all-important graduated diving bezel, which in this case is luminous, which from a practical perspective aids the wearer in those deep dark depths of the sea. I would say that the bezel and action on the Pelagos is a contender for best bezel on any watch, period. So, what are you getting for your money here? Well, it's a dive watch that's waterproofed up to a depth of 500 meters, one with heritage, great design taking cues from its historic predecessors, and one which truly wears great on the wrist. Arguably, and above all, the Pelagos is a timepiece with an in-house manufactured Tudor caliber, and to top it all off, it's a charming and reliable wrist companion. What else could you ask for? For me, this is great value at just over £3,000, particularly when considering the cost of Big Brother's serious divers. On to number 5 in the list, and our final watch to make it to the top 5 cheaper, better alternatives to Rolex. And this is a Seiko. Well, not just a Seiko, but a Grand Seiko. I'll get this out there straight away. Grand Seiko make the best finished watches of any watch under $30,000. Broadly speaking, Grand Seiko is known for two things. First, exceptionally detailed finishing, and second, exceptionally passionate fans. For me, this one watch encapsulates both of those elements. The Snowflake has the now famous spring drive movement, a movement technology that's unique to Seiko and one that started development way back in 1977. But it took another 20 years to be released commercially. I'm not a particular watch geek or expert on these movements, so simply put, the spring drive is a unique hybrid of mechanical and quartz technology. It's got a barrel and a rotor, just like any mechanical movement, but instead of the regular escape wheel balance and lever setup, it's got a tri-synchro regulator, which is called that because it uses magnetic, mechanical, and electrical energy to regulate the watch. In short, this results in an impressive accuracy, often accurate to a couple of seconds per year. Amazing. Let's not forget that this movement also results in the irresistible, butter-smooth sweep of the second hand, which is so mesmerizing that I often find myself just simply staring at it. Another aspect to this watch that makes it better than its Rolex Oyster Perpetual or date equivalents is the impossibly crisp finishing. This is thanks to Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polishing technique. This results in an amazing finish that sparkles and glistens and outshines Rolex at every surface. It's comfortable to wear and very light, and this is due to the fact that it's made of titanium. And whilst titanium watches are often more prone to scratches, thanks to a hardening process, the Grand Seiko Snowflake is robustly scratch resistant. But it would be remiss of us to mention the Snowflake without highlighting the standout feature, the dial. It takes its name, the Snowflake, from its resemblance to a field of crisp snow. It starts life as a stamped piece of metal before being given numerous layers of coating to achieve that mystical, translucent effect. On top of that, they have applied indices, diamond cut and polished to a mirror finish, and the beautiful dial, the impressive movement and the high-end finishing make the Snowflake an excellent choice. People ask me, how can a Seiko really be grand? Well, let me tell you. This is the type of finishing that Rolex can only dream of. The watch of watch lovers, and with a better finish than anything Rolex produce. So guys and girls, those are our list of 5 watches that are not only less expensive than their Rolex counterparts, but which are also readily available and even technically more advanced. What do you think about the whole Rolex debate? I look forward to seeing what you think in the comment section down below. Please also do take time to like and subscribe to the channel, that would really help and be appreciated. So, all that's left to say is thanks for watching, keep smiling, and see you again soon for another episode of Watches Etc.